Fundamentals continue to haunt the Guardians in a loss to the Minnesota Twins, but we've got trade ideas to talk about, as well as college pitchers to break down for this year's MLB Draft.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The little things, they give you away, and there's no mistaking the levees are breaking. If you get that reference, we can be friends. It's a deep cut right there. This is Locked On Guardians, your only Cleveland Guardians podcast that comes out every single day, and it covers your team every day from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. On today's show, we're going to talk college pitchers for the draft upcoming this week. It's a class I like quite a bit, at least in the happy middle anyway. We'll talk about the trade the Guardians made last week that we haven't got to cover yet, but Jeff's also got some interesting trade ideas that I think everybody is going to be on board with, at least in some respects. But we'll kick off the episode today talking about how the Guardians had poor fundamentals in this game, and that caused them to lose, even though I don't think they would have won 1-0 anyway. Today's episode of Locked On Guardians brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. That is, of course, Jeff Ellis, who has been the host of the show for the last 8 years and has covered the Guardians drafts and MLB Draft and the minors for 19 years. And I am Justin Lada. Been with Jeff here for 4 years, and I've covered the Guardians minor league system for 19 years as well. Yeah, that was not a fun game at all. The Guardians were bad offensively in the first inning, and then in the bottom of the second inning, everything came unglued, right? It was 3 straight balls that didn't leave the infield. Got 0 outs. Joey Cantillo essentially had to get 7 outs in the second inning. Luckily, he only gave up 2 runs. I mean, the sac fly and then base it up the middle that had a .230 expected batting average. I mean, Joey Cantillo could not buy a break. Like, did he walk under a ladder? Did he break a mirror? Like, that was just... I mean, usually we reserve those kind of things for Tanner Bybee, right? That's usually what happens when Tanner Bybee starts. I'm sure.
Much like in this one, the offense just fails to show up when Tanner is on the mound. I feel like sometimes
maybe they thought Tanner was pitching today.
But that's what they thought. To me, the bigger thing was just like, so I made Joey Cantillo one of the 3 stars as well as Chase DeLauder because they reached base 4 times in this game and 3 times for Chase DeLauder, and the other one was Hoskins' home run. We'll talk about Hoskins, who had a home run and then also freshman the crap out of you, I think, if you're watching. But like with Cantillo, what a performance. And, because he essentially got 6 outs in the second inning, maybe even 7 outs.
7.
In the second inning. Like he only went 5, but like between that and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it was just bad defense and bad luck. Now, there were, it's like Josh Bell's, the 3rd run that scored was a check swing. Like they did have some good luck moments. But at the bottom line, Cleveland's defense was atrocious, and their offense just decided to take a big old nap. I think Cantillo pitched well through that. Patrick Bailey tried his best to keep them within striking distance. I mean, he couldn't do anything with his bat, but like the throwouts, the challenges, and helping keep Cantillo from not going on tilt when your team is like up there actively sabotaging you, it felt like.
Right. Yeah, that's an underrated part of the game. I know, Carl Willis came out and talked to Cantillo, I think, after the lineup turned over from 9-1 in the second inning, just to give him, or maybe it was Royce Lewis. I forget where Royce Lewis was hitting in the lineup. It was 4th. But either way, he came out to talk to Cantillo to try to at least give him a breather, because at that point he had just thrown so many pitches and should have been out of the inning. But yeah, your catcher is the one who's got to get you through that inning. That's part of the calculus that I don't think people necessarily always think about, but that's a big reason why he traded for Bailey. He had the ABS challenge that got Cantillo an extra strikeout. I think that was the first inning, because if it was the second inning, it would have really been huge. But then, yeah, he had a caught stealing at second base later in the game. Cantillo did everything he possibly could to keep this. I mean, the sac fly is what it is, and like I said, the ground ball hit was, who had the RBI single there that inning? Was that Brooks Lee, 230 expected batting average that game. I mean, Cantillo had 3 walks, but I don't think any of the walks came around to score, because they were all the runs that scored were thanks to the errors. So I mean, Eric Sabrowski was not tremendous either. But
was,
that third run,
it was bad. That Josh Bell one was like a check swing. That was bad luck. I'm not gonna.
yeah, the double to left field that was smoked.
It was smoked. Kuhn got his glove on it, but I think that's more credit to Kuhn than to say that it was not smoked.
Yeah, some people were saying they should have given an error, and I'm like, no way.
No,
that's the other thing too. Is like you can't. Unfortunately, it all didn't matter because Cantillo only allowed the one or the 2 unearned runs anyway. But like the Rocchio ball, you can't assume a double play, so you don't give him an error on that one. And the Manzardo, that's just a poor read. Like he tried to go to second time, and then by that point, Cantillo wasn't there to cover in time, so you just were caught in the dead zone there. Bazana's got to make that play. And then there were a couple of hard hit balls to Rocchio and Schneemann that you couldn't call errors, but I think one of those plays probably could have been made. I mean, I think Arias makes that play at short, and I think Jose maybe makes that play at third, even though Schneemann's a great defender. Maybe not. I don't know. But they're definitely not errors. Just that's tough breaks. Like those balls were hit hard. And Stephen Kwan had 2 balls today that he hit that I think were like over 500 expected batting average or close to it that he got robbed on. It's just that kind of game for the Guardians. They play. And the other big culprit here was too, not that it mattered because the third run scored, but DeLauder has that hustle double to start the 7th inning, I think.
Yes.
He has that hustle double. Great read by him and Sandy Alomar to get the second base.
Great play.
And then Manzardo, is only able to muster a ground out. He's struggling.
It's a productive out, though. I'll take the productive
out.
It
is. He gets the third. And then you and I were texting. Rhys Hoskins is up, and I'm like, this is the worst spot for Rhys Hoskins because he is not a contact guy. Like you're either getting an extra base hit, a strikeout, or a walk. There's no in between there. So it was just not a put the ball in play, like a ground out or a sac fly was not going to happen there. And I half joked that maybe they should have pitched Hedges there, but you said that might have been a good idea.
No, it's not a joke. You're right. They should have, because and go back to everything we talked about yesterday on the show. So Hoskins entering the day at a 31.5 strikeout rate, which means roughly every third time he comes up, he doesn't make contact. That's the worst guy. You have 1 out, the tying run at second. 1 out. Yeah. I'm going to say that again. 1 out, tying run is not second at third. I messed up. Tying run at third, 1 out. I don't care that Hoskins hit his 8th home run of the year. I don't care because this guy can't make contact at all. So you should go and get Hedges. Go listen to yesterday's show. Not everyone did, because Hedges is striking out 16.7% of the time. He has flattened his swing and is making contact. Like he is not striking out at the high rate of some of the other guys on this team. Like, as we saw at the end of the game with Arias, that was an untenable situation for him. But like, he is not the guy you want to go out and get there. You want someone who's going to make contact. And Kwan, DeLauder, Rocchio, Ramirez are the bottom 4. 5th lowest strikeout rate is Austin Hedges. 100%. You said it as a joke, but it's 100% true. Because I was like, oh, they should have. I can't remember who I said. But then when you brought up Hedges, like, no, you're right. I said Fry. I was like, well, because maybe he'll walk. But you are right. They should have brought in Hedges because Hedges has a chance to make contact. That's what should have happened. That was a bad call. I was curious, and I didn't tell you I was going to do this. So before the show, like a year ago, I kind of went and looked at offensively, like at each position, how this team, ranked. In a lot of positions a year ago, they were very near the bottom. This year, they have only 3 positions that they are 24th or lower in relative to WRC plus. Can you guess what 3 positions on this team are 24th or lower in average offensive production?
Center field.
That they're 28th. That is the worst spot on this team.
24th or lower. Catcher?
No, they're 21st in catcher. A year ago, they were bottom for that. 21st and 19 in WAR. They're, San Francisco's bottom of the barrel in WAR after they got rid of Bailey. They got
it can't be shortstop because Rocchio's having a solid
shortstop
year.
Is their highest production this year.
Is it first base?
It's first base. They are 24th in WRC plus and 28th in F4, and that's left field. Because
Kwan's playing both, and
and Martinez was up and down. So DH, they have 100 on the year. They've been league average at DH. Right field with DeLauder, they've been 100 league average over the year, and 9th best WAR at that position. Shortstop is a 106, 6th best WRC plus, 5th best WAR. So they've been dominant at shortstop. Third base, 12th in WRC plus at a sub 100. So you just imagine, again, putting Jose back in this lineup is going to be such a big thing. But thanks to Jose's defense and Schneeman's defense, third best WAR at third base. And then second base, for all of Bazana's ups and downs, all the parts we like to bury him, 100 WRC plus at second base this year, which, again, remember we had the Brito time in between that was really ugly. So, that speaks to 11th best WRC plus, 18th best FWAR. They clearly need another outfielder. Watson is a lot of fun. I don't want to bury the kid. He should get some opportunities, but I also don't think he is the answer. And if you're a team that wants to take advantage of, Jose coming back, you don't have to run Watson and Martinez out there. I think, Chase has earned his spot, but I think one of those things, as we're going to talk about trades, is you have to consider outfield.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even a doubt in my mind. I mean, I know everyone's going to say right-handed too, but it's like, I'll take anybody, any side of the plate at this point. Right-handed would be great, but as we talked about in the past, there's just not that many of them, and you just take anybody that can hit.
And with this the challenge also system, we have the left-handed, like, we don't have time for it today necessarily, but left-handed hitters are doing a lot better. Like, the challenge system has made left-handed hitters take off. Like, I read a whole piece on like how the challenge system has really affected left-handed hitters more than right-handed hitters this year.
Yeah, I've got one more thing we'll point out from today's game, and then we'll move on to the trade the Guardians made with the Phillies last week and what was behind that. And then Jeff's got a trade idea we're going to pitch that I think everybody pretty much will be on board with. And then after that, it is all college pitching with the MLB Draft coming up this weekend. The biggest stage in world soccer is going on. Now, I know the U.S. is out, but there's still a lot of excitement going on there because every match has the potential to be a memorable moment. You saw one today. I believe Jeff was telling me it was Argentina that came back 3-2. See, that's the extent of my soccer knowledge. But tournament soccer is exciting. It's opening whistle to the final kick, and FanDuel is giving fans like you a reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pay. So you bet on a match, you can get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. That means more goals, pays, more bonus bets. All you got to do is turn on your token in the app. So we talked about a couple of those. Belgium's moving on, and Argentina's moving on. On the baseball side of things, we've got the over-under on win totals for FanDuel. And the Guardians right now have the highest over-under on FanDuel at 83.5 when it comes to the AL Central. That is not great. The White Sox 82.5. But the Guardians is plus 106 at over 83.5. So they feel like the odds are telling you that the money says they'll get over 84. And according to that, that might win the division right now. Opening whistle to final kick. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now while it's still going on. Appreciate everybody who has made Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is that you get podcasts. While you're here, if you want more of the show, I know if we're going to have a lot of announcements coming up in terms of the draft coverage coming up. If you want ad-free versions of the show, you can check that out at lockedonguardians.supercast.com or the link in the show notes, because that also gives you access to Discord where you can chat with other Guardians fans, Jeff, myself, other listeners of the show. And you can also chat with fans from other teams, because this Discord literally has a channel for every Locked On show and every team out there. So check that out right now. And I believe you could still get the 7-day free trial when you sign up, but wait for some new announcements on the Everydayer Club as well in the future. All right, so the last thing I wanted to point out too, and you mentioned the Guardians are better offensively in a lot of categories. You muted yourself, so I guess I'm just agreeing with you silently, or you're agreeing with me.
Yeah,
silently.
I think people forget just how bad they were a year ago. Like, that's one of the things. It's easy. Everyone's like, and yes, Jose was not the Jose of a year ago, but man, just getting a guy who is a consistent 10 to 15% above league average, even if he's not the typical 20 to 30%, is going to be a ginormous shift for this lineup, because they don't have
his presence in general.
Yes.
But the one thing I'm going to point out here is that, like, specifically to the Hoskins piece, like, you hit the home run early in the game, and that's great. The Guardians shift to the drawbacks of shifting to this team that's very walk, strikeout, home run heavy, or extra base hit heavy. You know, not all guys, but targeting guys like a Rhys Hoskins and other guys like that, is that when those moments come up, you don't have as many guys to put the ball in play. Like the Guardians at one time were really good at sack flies because they had a lot of guys who were contact. Yeah. So that's just the drawback. And they should have pitched it for Rhys Hoskins at that point. And even with the home run, I'm still okay with Hoskins hitting the road at the deadline if you can upgrade that spot. But I just want to point out, like, everybody gets mad about him striking out there, and they should because it's bad. But that's one of the drawbacks of that approach is that you don't have as many guys to just get the runner in from third base. Is you have guys that are all power, all strikeout, all walk. You need a balance.
You do. So I'm gonna have my old man moment here. So what is that? The expression that's now out of date, like the tired versus wired? Is it just those things? Like where
that's
people
still there? That? I think. I mean, we're old.
Okay.
But
So I feel like right now with the Guardians, the tired thing is people talking about Junior Caminero and how they missed out, or even to agree, Yandy Diaz. The wired take right now should be Spencer Horowitz, who, by the way, 12 before his injury with the Pirates, 12th best weighted or 12th best on base percentage of baseball, a 132 WRC plus. I did a whole piece on him in the offseason. Go check that out. Where I was like, guys, everyone's getting mad about Caminero. Everyone's getting mad. This Horowitz, who walks equally to his strikeout, gets on base and does all the things we were just talking about. That's the guy they need right now. That's where they messed up. They should have held on to Spencer Horowitz.
And he was ready to play at the time when they had him versus Caminero, who was several years away.
Yes, I mean,
I'm
Horowitz
not getting back into that. I'm not getting back.
Hey, thanks again for gambling, guys. We appreciate that. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it is. It really is. All right. So real quickly, the Guardians made a trip to Phillies last week. They traded $250,000 in international signing bonus money that they essentially got for the Nolan Jones trade from the White Sox, and they traded to Philadelphia so they could sign was he Taiwanese? I can't remember where the guy was from.
Yeah, I think he's Filipino via way of Taiwan.
Okay, so they signed an Asian and a Pacific Islander pitcher, 17-year-old. The Phillies did. They needed that money for that. The Guardians got 23-year-old Ryan Degges, I think is how you pronounce it, Degges. 17th round pick of 2024. Kid from UNC Charlotte, so one of our buddies had eyes on him. Has missed some bats in the minors, has some serious control issues. I don't see this as more than any kind of depth thing, but unfortunately, the Guardians, between Cal Stevens' surgery, Franklin Gomez being on the IL in Lake County, they needed arms, and it looks like he's going to start. I don't think he wasn't listed as a starter, so he might be going to the bullpen in Lake County, but he is in Lake County. So
just to pull back the curtain on the Phillies, the last 3 years, the Phillies love to draft college relievers with bad control, with 40 grade control, because they feel like they can turn them into starters and help them with their control. That's what Ryan Degges is. He's another guy. He actually added velocity. So I'm using Matt Winkleman, who's Phillies minor thoughts. Like, he's the king of Phillies prospects. And so, of course, he's the first place I went to kind of read on this. Like, another example of a guy like this is, I believe they drafted Marcus, was it Morgan, the kid from Iowa State that we liked a few years ago? They also take Obermueller, and they take relievers with terrible command and just try them as starters. And he talked about the Degges last year. At the end of last year, he had added velocity, that his changeup was good against the low minors, and the slider was promise. So control was a mess, but he had a chance to take a leap, he thought, in 2026. So there's some parts and pieces here. I agree he's a depth arm, but it's interesting because, and for anyone being like, well, they just didn't want to spend money. It's like, well, you have to have, unless you want to hurt someone, or unless a player is willing to be like, okay, I will take less now. Can you get this amount together? Like, they're not going to use that international money. It just sits there. So
it's from this past January. Yeah.
So, they were able to take something that they weren't going to use, and get a guy who probably, it might be like another, was it Dominic Cassetta? I can't remember that guy's name.
Damon Cassetta Stubbs. Yeah. Well, he retired,
ended up being nothing, but he was a little bit interesting at the time. So that could be Degges here, but at least it's something. He's a little bit fun, a little bit interesting. Big kid, very raw, but 3-pitch mix, can miss some bats.
Yeah, so he'll go to Lake County. I believe he's going to be in the bullpen because I didn't see him listed on the rotations this week. But we'll get a look at him. Yeah, he's missing bats, and they just need the depth. And like you said, maybe they can figure something out there. This is not a team that's done very good with helping guys that control issues, but
true.
For $250K, we'll take that and run with it. All right, so when we come back, speaking of spending money, Jeff has an idea of where one team doesn't want to spend, but the Guardians, they do want to spend. So stick around for that, plus college draft arms to know. Thanks to our friends over at Amazon for this extended or limited break, I should say. Back to school this season. Spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know that you can get out of hand when it comes to back to school shopping. It is very frazzled. You get a few items on the list and you're shopping for supplies and clothes and lunch stuff and tech, and adds up very, very quickly. As I say all the time, Jeff's teacher, my wife's teacher. I know lots of teachers because of that. And I know firsthand how much teachers spend on their own classroom out of their pocket. So maybe they should be teaching or checking on Amazon as well for stuff they need this year. But if you want to help out your teachers and help out yourself when it comes to supply lists, whether it's last minute or first day stuff or looking at tech, you want to go to Amazon, help out your teachers, help out yourself, spend less money on your kids. Remember, with Amazon's low back to school prices, just spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them, it's a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids. Make sure you're downloading on YouTube, and or I should say downloading your favorite audio platforms and hitting the bell on YouTube to get notified of when videos go live, whether it's a reaction video or a episode. We'll have lots of coverage coming ahead on the draft. Jeff, I believe we're going to do live stream all day during the draft on Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, Saturday at 1:30. Is that right?
No, it's well, I was thinking from my time. I think we're going to start at 12:30. So yes, 1:30 your time.
So yeah, we'll start at 1:30 on Saturday. We'll go all the way to the end of round 5. I believe it's 4. Round 1 through 4 on Saturday. We'll be live here all day. We'll take some breaks, to eat and go to the bathroom, all that kind of stuff. And then Sunday, I can't remember what the time is there, but we'll be here all
12:30, 11:30 my time, 12:30 your time, till whenever it ends.
Yeah, set up your notifications on YouTube because we'll be live all day. I don't know that we'll turn those into audio versions, but we'll give it a shot just because those are massive files to download.
Yeah, they're pretty. I mean, because it's hours and hours. We don't stop the stream. The stream keeps going. I mean, I would just be sitting here on my secondary computer tracking draft trackers anyway. So this is what I would do. Yeah. You're gonna see me standing up and walking around. You're gonna see me shoving food in my face.
Bad knee.
But
yeah, so this is the best time to hit the bell on YouTube to get notified of when we're live. We'll be live all day for those couple days. All right, Jeff. So the Guardians, people think they don't want to spend money, but there's one area they do spend money, and there's one team that is definitely cheaping out.
Yeah, so every single year, it was funny, going back to 2024, and people are you saw the people who don't know anything about the draft who are trying to act like they're draft experts. They're just they're gonna cheap out on the top overall pick, and it's no, every year they pay a penalty. So for those who don't know, there's a draft pool, and you can spend your whole pool. And that's great. You can spend less than your pool. When the Arizona Diamondbacks took Dansby Swanson 1 overall, they didn't spend almost $2 million of their draft pool that year. It was crazy. They did not. It's the only time I've ever seen that. Most teams spend their whole pool. Now, there are 2 other areas where you can be tricky. One is basically you can sign every player for $5K more. It's part of what's the contract language. Just about every team does that. So you get a bonus $50K because it's that $5K is part of the negotiating position. It's a little bit. So you'll see when Mayo and Callis post stuff, they'll be
Carlos,
minus the $5K. Not every the Angels don't do this one, for instance. Yeah. And then the other thing is Cleveland. So from 0 to 4.999, basically 5% minus a penny, you get a double charge on every dime you spend. So they pay that double charge to get that extra 5%. I have not set up the board this year. That's typically, they get an additional I think 250,000. So they're paying 500,000 to get an additional 250,000 basically. And then if you did spend a full 5%, you lose a first rounder. No one's done that. I would love to see a team do it though. I'd love to see a team that just went hog wild one year and then punted the next year if they felt
this is not the year to do it this year.
No, it's not the year to do it. Last year was the year to do it. But I would love to see a team that actually felt comfortable enough to do that. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, especially if you're, you couldn't do it if you're pairing Miasman with the Angels because, your ownership there. But
we don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
He doesn't work.
Hey, you're probably not going to draft in a year anyways. Go hog wild.
No, the Pirates won't be doing that.
But one of the things that came out today is that currently the Pirates have the 34th overall selection. The slot value is $2,897,400. Then you could add an additional 5% on top of that, so over
So we'll
$3
call it
million in
2.9.
spending.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if it was just a straight 3 million, it'd be 150,000. So yeah, it's going to be probably like 120,000 ish. So it's going to be over 3 million for a team, and they want to spend that money instead on their team instead of spending it on the draft. So they are open for discussions. Maybe like it sounds like, but at the same time, it's like, what does 3 million really get you in the market? So it's kind of weird. The other thing that happened with the Pirates today is it sounds like they're going to be without
Connor Griffin for
a very long time. They have Jared Trujillo, who's a great defender, more of a third baseman. I was joking. I'm like, okay, so the Pirates, for as much as everyone is annoyed with this bullpen, and I understand why, Cleveland's bullpen is 11th in WAR and 11th in FIP in all of baseball. It's just we're used to it being 1, 2, or 3. Like it's an 8-point drop, so we're used to it. We're used to it being 1, 2, or 3. So it feels bad this year, but that's just because it's not elite. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, is all the way down at 18. They've had a lot of struggles, a lot of guys who are out. My joking trade, which was I knew I'd win like podcaster of the year for this one, is like, well, they need a shortstop and a reliever, so that's trade him Arias and Festa for the pick, right? We're all in agreement. Let's trade him Gabby Arias because he can be an elite defender for them while they wait for Connor Griffin to come back, and Matt Festa because we've talked about he's a useful long guy. Now, of course, I'm kidding with that. Like, I don't know what the actual and I know a lot of people are going to be like, hey, you said this is a terrible draft. It is, but I love drafts. Like, I'm going to do a live stream of the whole draft for like the 10th year in a row.
Extra 3 million can still help.
I mean, yeah, it's always good to have that. It's a B, C value player probably there. It's no one who's going to make the Guardians top 10 more than likely at that pick, unless it was Logan Hughes, which could go in that range, but people don't agree with me on that valuation. But it's like, this is where like Andrew Walters getting hurts because it's like Walters was a 2nd round pick and he's a lot of fun, but he's been kind of inconsistent. It's like Walters was pitching well in AAA. It's like, do you consider a Walters because you already have an Alaman up, or do you consider an Alaman? I don't know. I don't know what makes sense for a trade like this. I don't even think Cleveland maybe makes the most sense. By all accounts, I think the team that covets that pick is the Chicago White Sox, because they have a deal in place to get Tomey, and I think they're nervous that Landon Tomey is someone might pop him before then. So the upside for Cleveland, even if Cleveland doesn't make a pick, and I always want more picks, is do the White Sox trade away one of their few counting on relievers they can count on to try to get that pick to guarantee him Landon Tomey, like, because they arrived early. Like, do they trade Sean Newcomb? Like, does Newcomb get you that pick? I mean, Newcomb might get you that pick. He's pitching well enough this year. It's a 1-year contract. We've seen kind of that. It might be like Newcomb and then a flyer prospect gets him that pick and allows him to get Tomey, and then that makes the White Sox weaker. So even if it's not Cleveland getting this pick, there's also a way where this pick ends up benefiting Cleveland if it goes to Chicago, at least in the short term.
And the Pirates are being cheap. Let's just go there. The Guardians, at least when it comes to the draft, they're not. The Pirates are trying to be cheap in the draft. So there is that. Let's talk about the draft a little bit here too. We've ran long on other stuff, but college pitching. I am always, for the most part, a big fan of college pitching, just because the Guardians have done so well there, and it's also like one of the easiest things to evaluate, I suppose, at least in terms of traits and data out there. I think this is a good college pitching class. It's not a great college pitching class. I think there's a lot of depth there.
The depth is great. The eliteness is not.
Yeah, like you got your Flora, your Jackson Flora, and then after that, it's pretty weak. Like even Cameron Flukey is starting to fall, which I would be against Cameron Flukey at 19 if he got there. That's a risk Cleveland would take. Although the health thing for him is not a big deal. Like it was a fracture.
No, just a rib injury.
It was fluky for Flukey. So
yeah.
But there's a lot of names I like. That
Mason Edwards is your favorite.
Yeah, I don't love Mason Edwards, and he's not going to get to 59, and he might even not be there at 19, the way it sounds like if you read things. My guy at 19 is Tegan Kuhns. Like I like the size, I like the velocity. I know there's some things that are iffy, but like that's a guy I'd be very interested in. I'm not against Liam Peterson from Florida. Like he's got stuff, just very bad control. I know this team is not good at helping with control, and But we know Florida guys are underdeveloped. There's Cade Townsend, who I know you like. I'll let you talk about Taylor Rabe. I know you want to go with Jack Radel at 19, which, given some of the stuff we found out today, I guess I'd be more inclined to do that because he won't be there at 59. And then the other guy is like Ben Blair. Like, I'm worried he won't start, the Liberty kid, because I
don't think Blair is a top 30 guy. So
yeah, well, he's not going to be there at 59 either. So, but like other names we were talking off air about, like Jacob Duden from North Carolina State, who is getting Tommy John, but has a nasty fastball and slider, might be a reliever. Ryan Peterson Ryan Peterson's another guy who's like lower in the draft, day 2. And then there's like other guys we talk about, Kyle Johnson from Virginia and Jake McCoy from, is McCoy also from Virginia? Where is he from?
I feel like he might be.
Yeah, he's having Tommy John, but I like the stuff there. Like there's just a lot of names in this draft that I think are all interesting traits, balls of clay that you can do stuff with that Cleveland's good about. I wanted to like Jason DeCaro more, but the more I wrote about him today, I was like,
so he is the classic add velocity type, which they have done well with.
They have, but like the rest of the pitch mix.
You know me, I was low on him to begin with, so
yeah.
I'm being a devil.
Well, you want to talk about? I know you want to talk about Jack Radel. I think we already talked about him a little bit, but so here's my elevator pitch. One, he's, when I look at pitchers, I want plus athletes. I want big backside, and I want a deep pitch mix, and he has all of them. And for those being like, what are you talking about? Athleticism helps in terms of repeating your delivery. It helps with control, and it helps with staying healthy. A big backside and firm trunks, like having big legs and that's why Ryan Sloan was my top prep pitcher. Like Braylon Dowdy's great, but I think everyone agrees with me now that like Sloan was the best pitcher in that class, and I had him there because he had the trunk, and like that also helps you stay healthy. It also gives you more like when you're throwing, like you can get more velocity if you like from your whole body approach. Radel is 6'5", 250. Sorry, that got really loud there. I got excited by just how big and he's got 7.2 feet of extension, and he was a South Carolina kid, and then he went to Notre Dame. That's been a terrible developmental program. I talked about him recently on the show. Like, it's been 13 years since they had a first rounder. Like, I just think there's a lot of, and he's got a 5-pitch mix. Now, are any of them plus right now? No, but like, this is a kid who's probably never seen a pitching factory, and you could put him in one. The opposite of him is Cade Townsend, who is like 6'1" and has well-developed secondaries. And Radel has great command. Thompson has some shaky command. And then Peterson maybe has the best like mix and stuff. And terrible numbers in college. Just like it's but at the same time, Florida pitcher.
Florida. And I would feel better if any of these Florida pitchers got to the big leagues after being terribly developed and turned into anything. Like, you and I were not. Alaman's like your best. Brady Singer is the best. Like, let's be honest. Brady Singer is the one. At least he's been a successful starter. But like Jackson Kowar, Alex Falledo, AJ Puck has worked as a reliever, so I'll give him credit there. But like the overall grouping hasn't gone great. Tommy Mace, Jack Leftwich. Like, these are a lot of guys who had high things that they just don't develop them well. But I kept moving him up because I'm like, the stuff is good, and he's 6'5", and like there's stuff there. So
underdeveloped,
he's totally undercooked. And I agree with you. Like, for me, it's like Flukey, Townsend, Peterson, Radel, Tegan Kuhns. Like, I'm okay with anyone from that group. And then, like, if you're picking later, like, I'm just gonna go ahead. Kyle Johnson, like, he's had some injuries. He's a smaller Virginia kid, great athlete. Like, I almost put him in my top 100. I don't think he's a top 100 anywhere, but he is. Like, he's that guy where like everyone thinks the future is extremely bright, that there is another level to him. And I'm just gonna say, I wouldn't be shocked if Kyle Johnson goes early round 2. Like, if he told me he's a top 50. We didn't talk Ethan Kleinschmidt, but he is a very Guardians type. Like, they've gone to Oregon State before. He is just like
Nelson Keljo, who's been pretty good, by the way.
Added
velocity, lacks control. Kleinschmidt's got better control, but doesn't have the velo yet, and he can also throw a changeup, by the way. Like,
and he's just a good pitcher. Like, he's a complete mix type of guy. And then Ryan Peterson, man, he can spin his stuff. He's got not great numbers while pitching at Sam Houston, but who cares about numbers? Who cares about performance? You're looking at traits. I think I saw somewhere that like his his curveball is a 3,000 RPM pitch.
Yeah.
Like it's a hammer. It's an absolute devastating pitch. So you could sit there and get, just a really fun player. And then, like you and I both like Shane Sadao, who's got turned, I think, 23 this year. Like there's Evan Dempsey was a two-way guy at Florida Gulf Coast. You and I were talking off here.
Yeah.
Like this is a class where I really do like the depth a lot. Again, the top of it is kind of weak, especially after Flora, because everyone else has massive like concerns and flags. But we've seen more of that over the years. Like, I mean, go back to the Skeens class. It's like after Skeens, Waldrop was number 2, and then it was like, okay, and there's nothing. But guys have developed after that. You're looking for those traits. You're looking for, I would love to see a team take Cameron Johnson and see if you can figure out why that guy went from a first rounder out of high school to a guy who's going to be lucky to get 150K now. Like, just gamble on traits. Look what he can do. Ethan McAlvin's got some of the best facial hair in this class. You just gotta find, some of the
better than Ruger Riojas even.
Yeah. Who's that big kid we both were like, this guy's kind of fun? Wasn't he another Arkansas kid that was kind of like big that you and I were both?
Oh, it was Ethan McElvain and Hunter Dietz for the 2 kids from Arkansas.
I thought there was another guy somewhere. Maybe it was McElvain. I thought there was another guy that was like a huge guy that we were having some fun with a few weeks ago. But even like Nebraska's got like Ty Horn and Jaska. Like they've got a pair of fun guys. Michael Worley had a great performance at the combine. Like there's a lot of guys. I think Cleveland, I've thrown so many names and haven't given you a lot of depth, but like Max Yell, like that's just a great name in general.
Yeah.
But Cal Randall, Bo Rudy,
Aiden Mack guys from Clemson. You mentioned him. You liked him.
Yeah, like you need to. I really think they should draft like 3 or 4 college arms this year because the depth.
LJ Macarius was a guy you talked about early in the year. You talked about, and he didn't have a great year, but Oklahoma won the championship, and he's interesting. Like I'd be in
Trey Beard showed up at the combine. Like there's
you mentioned Trey Beard. Like I want to say back in like March. Like you said, I know you like Wes Mendez. We talked about Wes Mendez. That's 2 lefties from Florida State. Florida State's had a good track record, I will say.
Yeah, last time you had 2 lefties, it was Hubart and what was that guy's name who went with Hubart? I forgot the other guy who was there. Yeah, that guy.
The reason they got Chase the Lottery, yeah. I mean, there's other guys too, like Ethan Kremkowski. I think is interesting. I think it's too early for me to get on the Ethan Strade train from Bowling Green. I'll save that for Sunday when he's picked. But I mean, hey, old friend Ryan Marone, not great at North Carolina State, but like the Guardians have redrafted guys before.
100%.
They didn't sign in 2022, right?
Yeah, they got hosed. There's no way around that. Was
that 23 or 22? I can't remember what year was the.
Oh, it was 3 years ago, so it was 23 because Hewer went last year as a draft eligible sophomore. But he's looking Hewer and Marone.
Brett Renfro is a guy people like from Virginia Tech.
Yeah, a lot of people really like him. It's a guy I need to spend a little more time on. I'm not quite as high as the crowd, but yeah.
There's some good names in this class. Like I would take more than 3 or 4 college pitchers. You got 20 picks. I mean, I'd take 5 or 6. I would go up a little higher. High school pitching, high school bats, and I think college pitching. The class, the demographic I hate the most this year is college hitters. Like there's just not a lot of college hitters this year that I really like. So I would go heavy college pitching. I'd go prep hitters.
Are you talking badly about Logan Hughes?
I didn't say all. I just said on the whole. All right, Jeff's out of here. Yeah. Logan Hughes is garbage.
He's my Devin Taylor. He's my guy. Every year.
I know.
You get a guy. That's just I'm buying.
Can you reverse jinx him to 19? Like you've reverse jinxed who have we reverse jinxed on the show this year? We reverse jinxed DeLauder at times.
Everyone.
Yeah, DeLauder. I'm trying to think who else there was. So maybe you can reverse.
I'll also throw out another Big Ten guy. Isaac Morton's pretty fun as a sidearm guy.
Oh yeah,
a lot of them. Yeah. He's got some of that. And Ethan Norby is a guy you and I both thought would go a lot higher. The one guy, I'll say this. I know we're going long. I can guarantee they won't draft Jackson Jelkin. Let's just say that is a.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah,
but that is the one thing I can guarantee at this point in time when it comes to the draft. But yeah. It's like I said, it's a fun group. It's a deep group. I agree with you. Take more than 4. Take 5. Make it half of your top 10 picks. That sounds good to me.
I agree. Yeah, that's where the depth is here. We'll talk about Jeff's least favorite demographic in the draft tomorrow. That's high school pitchers. We'll talk Guardians and Twins game 2. Hopefully it won't be as sloppy, but we're here no matter whether things are sloppy here or not. We're sloppy a lot too, but we still show up.
Thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily. It helps. Tell us what prospects you like. Make sure to tell a friend. I know with some of their offensive struggles, the numbers are down. So jump in, join us, and have some fun. Go, Guardians, go.